Hi, I'm Katie Kempner, and we are on the WebMD interview stage here at Advertising Week, and this is Perspectives, which is a series of inspiring conversations with remarkable working women who are leading busy and successful lives. And right now, I'm talking with Hannah Fishman, who is Group Creative Director of DDB New York. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you for stopping by. So I definitely talk less to creative director women, and I think that's because, as they can tell you at the 3% conference, there's less of them.
Correct.
So since we're here at Advertising Week, could we talk a little bit from your point of view? And I know this is something that's talked about a lot.
Sure.
Why is it that there aren't more women creative directors, and is that changing?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's changing. I think, even the 3% conference, I think the stat has changed from 3% to 11% from when they started the initiative, so that's incredibly encouraging. Yeah, I think that, sort of within a woman's journey and within their progression, when it gets to that point of sort of in their careers of becoming creative directors, there's often a choice between starting a family and sort of settling down and that next step. So I think, I don't know for certain, but I have a feeling that that's probably what has been preventing some of that progression. So if you go off to maternity leave and you come back, and sometimes you have to figure out, different priorities. Yeah. So I am really encouraged to sort of see those numbers shifting, and certainly there's no shortage of women in the creative field. It's just how do we help get them sort of to that level of leadership, more of them.
And a lot of it, I mean, people have said one of the many different factors is the hours. That there's just so many hours that go into being a creative director.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this industry, it's you can't always put a cap on when something's going to be finished.
Yeah.
So I do think that having that flexibility, being able to get work done from other places is critical.
And we were talking before we started about telling people at times, I have a hard stop now, or, and not having to necessarily explain yourself. And
Sure.
I think that's interesting because I just interviewed someone who said, well, I just, explain where I have to be. And I think there's definitely merits on both sides.
Sure.
And you kind of have to figure out what works for you and what works for the person you're talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about reading the room, reading the situation. You don't necessarily tell everyone in the room that you've just gotten a root canal, or
Right.
I don't think you have to over-explain where you are, where you're going, or why you're late. But I definitely, so I have 2 kids, and I used to sort of pride myself on people maybe not knowing or not guessing that I had 2 kids at home, and it's really interesting in sort of the my newer responsibilities and role. I've found that it actually can be a wonderful way to build relationships and connections with clients. So I've actually been able to use that in a really powerful way.
You said something in terms of your kids when we were talking before about having to make choices, recently 2 choices, and I'd love for you to share it because those are exactly the kind of choices that women need to make often. Well, parents need to make often.
Absolutely.
But, and can be very tricky.
Yeah. I always sort of internally say to myself that I'm making a decision every single day, and it's just on the scale of how important it is or not. But yeah, so I've been in this new role for about 8 months, and within a couple months of starting, I had a shoot scheduled for Mother's Day, and that was a tough tough choice. It's a when you're new in a role and you have to sort of prove yourself and you want to do a great job and just start to figure that stuff out. So yeah, and more recently there was another shoot that was scheduled on my daughter's birthday, and I was saying to you that you have some choices. You can either sort of make the tough choice of going to the work thing and missing the life thing, or going to the life thing and then feeling like you're doing a lousy job at work, or depending on the situation, you can push back a little bit, and that's sort of what I ended up doing. Is I said, I can't be there on this day, so let's figure out how to get the shoot, 2 days sooner, so that I can get home in time. So, and that's what I did. And I think it's sort of, finding those solutions as you navigate every day.
And knowing that you can be empowered to do them, because I think a lot of times people, women especially, but all people, feel like, oh, I I shouldn't be the one that says I can't do that.
Totally.
But not everything needs to be written in stone. Some things do, and then you figure it out then.
Yep.
You know, so
Absolutely.
I like what you say about life is just all of these decisions every single day.
Yep. Yep.
So I wanted to ask you also just a little bit about in your career, I mean, and we've talked about, you know, not that many creative directors that are women. What is some advice that you could share that has helped you, you know, doing the things that you do?
You know, it's interesting. I think for me, I've really just sort of soaked everything in. So, you know, I've read the books, I've read the articles, I've watched the TED Talks. When you hear of something great, read it, absorb it, and I think just having an awareness has helped me so much. So, you know, being aware of saying I'm sorry too much, or being aware of using the word just in emails too much, or being aware that when you enter a room, to take a good seat at the table and not sit on the outside. So all those things that all of these, you know, sort of really powerful and brilliant women have been saying, to listen and you know, really kind of absorb that, and then when you're aware of it, you actually do make changes.
Yeah.
And so I think for me that's been huge. Just trying to think of other big ones. Even just, you know, when men might interrupt you in a meeting or say something you just said, and actually saying, you know, I just said that actually, and things like that. You know, just those little everyday things I think are critical.
Are there any mistakes that you made that you know, think to yourself, oh, I really wish I hadn't done that in my career?
No, I don't really have anything like that I think that you know, my career's been really interesting, and I feel really lucky that I've sort of guided myself in a way that is non-traditional. So no, I didn't start out in advertising, and I often said, should I have, you know, have I wasted all of those years? And I'm actually not sorry that I ended up sort of starting where I did. So.
Well, so what motivates you then to make the career choices that you've made?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think, you know, the challenge in front of me. So I think, you know, just right now I have the ability to be working with a brand that speaks to teen girls, and so to me that was really interesting. How can I make advertising that I would want my own daughter to see and absorb and be affected by? So I think really finding what makes you tick and finding a challenge that allows you to really, you know, fulfill that, I think is critical.
Yeah. So I've asked you about advice in different ways, and I've asked you about things, but is there one, I just would like to end with, if there's one piece of advice that really helps guide you through your life, what that would be?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to just narrow it down to one, but let me think for a moment.
You can do 2 or 3. No.
Yeah, I think, you know, really learning to be yourself. So I think as we all navigate and go through our careers, we see role models, we see people that inspire us and who we look up to. And it took me a little while to realize that while it's good to learn from those people, you can't ever really emulate them or try to be them. You need to be yourself and sort of figure out what that is for you. So even like presentation style, things like that I sort of talk to junior creatives about, like, you need to be yourself. You need to be you. So you need to find whatever that style is, and it's got to be the best version of yourself.
Oh, that's a great place to end. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you.